The chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Espaillat, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today and I stand with our brothers and sisters who are fighting for democracy, Mr. Speaker, for their country, for the world, in the Ukraine. And as you may know, Mr. Speaker, New York City is a gorgeous mosaic of people from all over the world. And in my district, the 13th Congressional District, I stand in solidarity with constituents that come from the Ukraine, Ukrainian Americans and Ukrainians that are part of my district. And New York City stands in solidarity with them. People in the Brighton Beach area of Brooklyn, called today Little Odessa. We stand in solidarity with our Ukrainian brothers and sisters. And Vladimir Putin has waged a war. It's called Putin's war of unprecedented proportions on the people of the Ukraine, the likes of which we haven't seen since World War II, Mr. Speaker. He continues to pound on civilian sites as he waits to assault Kiev. The world braces what could be really an attack of unprecedented proportion as he prepares to slaughter the Ukrainian people and engage in clearly war crimes. These unprovoked and unjustified attacks have caused tragic losses and human life and suffering. They are grandparents, they are moms with their little children being forced out of their home out of fear of rocket attacks. Fathers, uncles, cousins, leaving their families behind to defend democracy in the Ukraine and on behalf of the world. This week, the permanent representative of the Ukraine at the United Nations told the Security Council that hundreds of Ukrainian civilians have been killed, including children, Mr. Speaker. Thousands of people are wounded as a result of Russia's military aggression as Vladimir Putin continues to engage, to perpetrate war crime. This is a war without remorse, Mr. Speaker. More than 1,000 civilians have died, and more than 1.5 million Ukrainians have been displaced, causing a humanitarian crisis. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Putin, Vladimir Putin, has engaged in war crime. This isn't just Putin's war on the Ukraine. It's a rebuke of Western values. It's a rebuke of democratic structures. It's a rebuke of the will of the people and basic human rights. It's a rebuke of law and order and peaceful coexistence. He has doubled down, Mr. Speaker, and has premeditatedly and illegally and immorally engaged in this war. But those on the front lines in the Ukraine are relentless in their defense of democracy. It is our duty, Mr. Speaker, to support the Ukraine to the best of our ability, to defend its freedom and sovereignty from Putin's war. President Zelensky's message is clear. He will defend Ukrainian sovereignty and statehood to the very end, and we must stand with him and every Ukrainian. I commend President Biden's rallying calls and our allies in response to Russia's military invasion of the Ukraine and urge continued support for the Ukrainian people as they violently resist tyranny in the name of freedom and democracy. Putin's actions are barbaric. They are disregard of human rights, violating Ukrainian sovereignty and posing a threat to all of us across the planet. His actions are hurting the people of Russia as well. Dozens of cities across Russia saw people being arrested as they demonstrated against this illegal war. It is heartbreaking that on Women's History Month, on International Women's Day, we are witnessing thousands of Ukrainian women fleeing with their children, their homeland, to bordering countries. The United States and our allies must do everything in our power to prevent this from happening again. Mr. Speaker, I've introduced a resolution calling on Vladimir Putin and the Russians to be held accountable for war crimes, and I yield back.